LeighTDickey.com. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Pinfall, a pro wrestling podcast from a fan's perspective, sharing memories, reviewing segments, matches, and sharing news from everything that is this wonderful world of professional wrestling. For this episode, I want to do a watch-along and give you guys sort of a running commentary on Buff Bagwell versus Booker T from Monday Night Raw from July 2nd, 2001. What that was and what that is basically a WCW showcase because Buff Bagwell and Booker T were going at it for the WCW Championship. And I guess that was Vince's sort of look and, like I said, showcase into what he could do with WCW, because this was probably, I'd say, a little over 3 months past the WWF or WWE purchase of WCW from Turner. And from what I gather, having listened to the episode of the last Monday Nitro leading up to WrestleMania 17 on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, the original plan was to have a separate WCW show and a separate WWE show, but here, or because of this, I suppose that's why it didn't happen. Because of this match, that's why we didn't get two separate brands and we got the Alliance storyline instead. But I just wanted to do a running commentary / watch along here for this episode of Pinfall, a pro wrestling podcast, direct from the mind of a fan, yours truly, Leigh Dickey. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So right away, I can notice a flub, and you have Scott Hudson plugging the upcoming match between Buff Bagwell and Booker T here on Raw. And Scott, I'm assuming this was just a flub and a slip-up on his part, because you're on Raw and not Nitro, but he says that Buff Bagwell goes for the WWF Championship next. And this is a WCW main event on Raw. And at the time, Booker T was the WCW champion and the US champion. But here, he only comes out with the big gold belt, the WCW championship. And here he comes with all his pyro. I actually really liked the idea where they were going to have two separate shows, a WCW show and a WWE show, but unfortunately because of this match, and I'm assuming the match on SmackDown later within this week, I think that would have aired on the 5th of July, it just didn't happen. And interesting side note, when they were making the introductions for this match, I didn't recognize the ring announcer's voice, and I was thinking, like, who is that? That's not Lillian Garcia, it's not Howard Finkel, and obviously it's a WCW main event on Raw, but I couldn't quite place it, and they cut to a close-up shot. It's Stacy Keibler. Stacy Keibler is the ring announcer, and I suppose because of the buyout, and I remember listening to Something to Wrestle With, it was actually another episode of that show, their episode on the Steiners within WWE, where because of the buyout and how Stacy's look and her personality and just the way she carried herself, they wanted to do something with her. So it's cool to just see her within her early run here in WWE, and you have Buff Bagwell entering the ring, Booker T's in the ring holding the WCW title. Nick Patrick is the referee, and he's got the white WCW shirt on with that new logo, I guess, that the WWE came up with after they purchased WCW. Interesting side note here, they're actually holding Raw in a non-WCW town, I guess you could say. it's actually in the Tacoma Dome in Washington. So we start off here. Buff jumps the bell with a shot on Booker T. Booker T blocks it and rake to the eyes. Typical heel work. And to be quite honest with you, the crowd is not into it. It's not like Fantasio 1995 quiet, but it is pretty quiet. Buff with a double arm DDT goes for a cover, quick 2 count. Goes for another cover, another quick 2 count. And it's quiet. It's, again, like I said, it's not like Fantasio levels of quiet from back in 1995. But the crowd's not into this match. And again, they're not in prime WCW territory. Book with a big spin kick there. Nick Patrick's just looking on. I'm assuming that everybody involved wanted this to go well. And to be quite honest, as a fan, I wanted it to go well. Book with a quick cover here. But I wanted it to go well because I didn't grow up with much WCW coverage. Like, I'm in Canada where this show comes from. I'm in Canada. Yes, they ran, I think, a couple times here, WCW in that regard. But there wasn't much coverage up here. I've mentioned several times that WCW and like Nitro and Raw aired on the same network up here in Canada, but the time slot for Nitros varied because of the Canadian network's coverage of certain sports like hockey and curling. You got Booker T being worked over in the corner by Buff, and I was a big fan of Buff Bagwell in WCW. I liked his stuff. I really liked his theme song, to be honest with you. And liked his work. Booker T as well. And I just, watching this match back and realizing that it just didn't work and the crowd was not into it. Like, you have Arn Anderson and Scott Hudson on commentary as Buff's got Booker here in a reverse chinlock. And, I'm watching, like I said, I'm watching this back, and I liked Scott Hudson when he was with WCW. I really did like his commentary. He's got that really cool, like, announcer voice. But I just, like, they seem out of their element because you're, A, not in, like, WCW territory. B, it's not, like, a typical Nitro. It's a Raw main event. And WCW is taking that main event slot just to see if WCW would work as its own separate brand. Now, Book's powering out of a surfboard. He's coming back. He's turning it around on Buff. And I've heard Booker say, and a few other superstars say that, like, everybody knew what was going to happen. I suppose everybody could tell that it just wasn't going to go well because you're in Tacoma, Washington. I don't remember WCW ever running like Washington, because it is a southern-based company. Like, if you ran to, like, Alabama or Georgia or anywhere that it was hot, aside from, like, everywhere during that 2-year span, I think it would have worked. But you're running in a typical, like, WWE town or WWF town at the time where, like, the audience is catered to believe that WCW is number 2. WCW sucks, as Buff Bagwell pulls Book up from the ropes after choking him a little while. And then Irish whip and what have you. Reverse the Irish whip. Booker T with a big sidekick here. And his big comeback. Here we go. As I'm just watching this back, I really wanted the WCW thing to work. Like, the Alliance thing I was quite meh on, as everybody else was. But it just, to me, it didn't make sense to have that Alliance thing looking back on it. And you want Booker T and Buff. I wanted this to work out. It just didn't, which is unfortunate. Book with the big finish here, his scissor kick. Goes for the spin Rooney, hits that. And I was hoping here when I was watching it as a fan for the first time that he would go for the cover, but obviously Steve Austin, Stone Cold, and Kurt, they come in to a huge pop, mind you. The crowd pops for the WWF running in and stopping this match. I like I've said several times in this episode, I know it's not a typical WCW town, but to me, watching this, it's sad. I don't think Buff actually made another appearance on WWF TV after this, or like he wasn't gone, too long after this episode here, maybe like within a couple of weeks. Austin sends Booker T into the steps. Buff, Kurt, and Steve, they put the boots to him. I don't know what to think. Like, wanted WCW to work out underneath the WWE banner, but I think because of this match and the subsequent SmackDown match between Kidman and Shane Helms, at the time Gregory, because you can't have two Shanes working for the same company, go figure, right? It didn't pan out. Vince hated it, apparently, according to Pritchard and a few other people who were there, I guess, who were behind the scenes at the time. And as they continue the assault on Booker here up the ramp, I know that they throw these guys out the door shortly thereafter. Nick Patrick trying to interview to no avail. But there it is. The main event of Raw, July 2nd, 2001. Booker T defends the WCW title against Buff Bagwell. My opinion, I was hoping WCW would have been a separate brand. Was hoping it would work because I didn't get much coverage of WCW. Being a fan here, being from and living in Canada, simply because of how the broadcast situation and the rights worked up here. And I'm sad that I didn't get much coverage of WCW, and I was mainly a WWE, WWF guy. But watching this match, knowing what would happen, and even seeing that run in again for the first time in like 18 years or whatever it was, it's just sad to me that it didn't work out as much as I wanted it to. But there it is, my watch along and running commentary of the main event of Raw from July 2nd, 2001, Booker T versus Buff Bagwell for the WCW title, with Stacy Keibler as the ring announcer and Scott Hudson and Arn Anderson on commentary. Please let me know what you think. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Find Pinfall, a pro wrestling podcast with Leigh Dickey on all the major podcast platforms, on my official website, leightdickey.com, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on social media. Links will be in the description, all at Leigh on Wrestling. But of course, until next time, this is Leigh Dickey signing off. Peace. LeighTDickey.com